Hello, welcome to Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog, and I thought I'd do an E3 wrap-up video after my rather miserable one the other day at the start of it all. I feel like I was vindicated by the fact that ultimately this has been a rather poor E3 for 2018. I'd be surprised, I haven't really checked, but I'd be surprised if people felt that differently. There's been no outstanding person or company really, other than, I'll get to it in more detail in a second, but running down my list, if I was thinking about it from a broader gamer's point of view, maybe Bethesda would have come out quite highly. I feel like Microsoft showed a lot of willing, but whether that delivers, who knows. I saw a lot of people say off the bat that Sony nailed it in one, but that's got to be fanboyism, surely. I've watched what they've offered up, and other than Last of Us 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3, which is a Square Enix story, I'm kind of like, they didn't really offer that much. Theirs was quite basic. Everyone was pegging their hopes on Nintendo and saying they would have the ultimate one that would win it, but even theirs was a little bit one-trick pony, to be honest. So yeah, I thought I'd go through what I was quite excited about. I'll start with Nintendo because they're the ones I just mentioned, but theirs was heavily around Super Smash Bros. It is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, though, which is awesome. That seems very cool. Every character that's ever been in a Smash Bros. Game is going to be in this game. Makes me wonder what they're going to do next, because you can't really go beyond that. They can't start a new Smash Bros. Series or reboot it or whatever. Are they just going to do Ultimate 2 and then Ultimate 3? It's an interesting decision because I guess ultimately this is it. They've got all the levels, all the story. They're doing some sort of story that encapsulates them all, I assume, I hope, because that's the best. People might not agree, but the story to Smash Bros is always well fun. I love playing through the story mode and seeing all the little cutscenes and stuff. It doesn't have to make that much sense. I just like the fact they're all wandering about their way, going about their business, and you unlock more characters as you go. I am excited to get that when I finally own a Switch, and I think that'll be cool. I know there were some minor announcements about Pokemon Let's Go as well. Apparently, if you buy it with the Pokeball thing that you walk around with, you get a Mew for your game. That's exciting because it occurred to me the other day that this is only the Kanto Pokemon, but you should assume that you'll be able to trade them from that to the next game. And I thought to myself, the only way I'm ever going to have all 151 is if I put my Mew from Pokemon Go in Pokemon Let's Go. And I didn't want to do that because then it means I haven't got one in Go, sorry. But knowing you get one with the extra add-on kind of makes it worth doing. That comes out, I think it's the day before, 2 days before my wife's birthday. So I'm thinking I have until November to convince her that she likes Pokemon as much as I do, to convince her she wants the Switch as much as I do, and then to convince her to get one for her birthday. Knowing my luck, it would work, and then she would start the game and claim the Mew, and I'd still be Mewless. But yeah, there's a plan there somewhere. I just hope I can pull it off. So yeah, Nintendo seemed alright. The other games they talked about, just nothing that I really fancied. Fire Emblem and stuff like that. I've not played them. I'm not into them. Not interested. Whatever. I looked through some other bits. I'm not sure the platform on this one because I missed it during the days. But Rapture Rejects, the Cyanide and Happiness cartoon online, the webcomic, they've got a game based around that. I'm not really sat there thinking, well, hey, take my money. I'm just thinking that's worth a glance because their comics are quite funny. It has potential, but it also feels a little bit throwaway. There's one thing reading a free comic on the internet for years and years and years. There's another to see that translated into a game. So we'll see how that goes. But I was interested when I saw it listed as one to keep an eye out for when the time comes. Going for Sony, I'm going to kind of do this in reverse to an extent. I was a little bit surprised that they literally showed Last of Us 2, then kind of just went... and then they just kind of showed... does anyone really care they're doing another Destiny thing? There's a few on there where I just thought, Resident Evil 2's coming back. It's like, great, okay. That's a PS1 game. I don't know, I'm just underwhelmed by their one. I'm not trying to say that in like oh, I don't like, I do like Sony. I've been really excited getting back into my PS4 this past couple of weeks, and seeing Last of Us 2 made me think, well, there's a definite reason to keep my PS4. Kingdom Hearts 3 was the other one that made me think, do you know what? I'd like to play that. I think I've only played a bit of the first one and a lot of the second one, but I don't remember it all that much. All I really remember it as is your, Disney characters, and there are Final Fantasy characters, and they're kind of all in the same smushed together world. I haven't seen the promo for this bit yet because I've been kind of flitting in and out of it all, but I wonder which Final Fantasy characters they would include, if any. I mean, I feel like they'd want it to be Lightning because they're obsessed with trying to shoehorn Lightning into things, when Final Fantasy 13 is the worst. So I don't know. Hopefully they'll go for 15 and they'll draw a line under 13 and say, right, that's the past, 15's the future. They had a weird Square Enix had a weird announcement that they were combining Monster Hunter with Final Fantasy 14. I didn't realise people were still playing that, and I've never touched an MMO because, well, officially, I've never paid money for an MMO. I think I've played bits of MMOs, I've got demos of MMOs from companies to review, but I never officially paid money to play one, and that's for good reason. Basically, I know that if I was to get it, I'd have to go all in, and I don't want to devote that much time, effort, and money to a game all in. And I know that I'd start getting depressed. I have this weird thing where I get it with Football Manager, to be fair. I'll be playing it, and I'll have a team, and I'll struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle, and then I'll get them into, like, League 1 from the bottom league. So I'll have gone bottom league, next league, get them into the next league. There's only 2 more leagues left until I'm in the big time. And then I'll just suddenly feel utterly depressed because I'll think to myself, all it takes now is just playing the game continuously. I've done all the hard work. It's all ready to go. I feel like at that point I need to hand off to an assistant who just takes them all the way to Champions League glory, and I just know it's happened. If I could, I should have just put the game on holiday mode. I get it sometimes with Pokemon games, but I've only got 1 or 2 left. I start to get really miserable because I just don't see the point in putting all the time and effort in to find that last one, even though I'm that close to completing it. So MMOs are kind of a big no-no for me, which rules out Fallout 76. Unless that's something massive, I don't see me ever playing Fallout 76. I don't really know how that's going to work, whether they're going to expect people to pay monthly for it, or whether it's just going to be a pay once, play all the time thing. I think Defiance was the last one I played that was... I got it as a review, but you got it and that was it. You didn't have to pay anything for it once it was on. And that, again, I wasn't hotly into that. So, I don't know. We'll see with Fallout 76. I guess it'll ultimately depend on what Anna thinks of it when the time comes. A lot of fans have been moaning about that. You would think Bethesda would come out and spat in people's faces, but they basically announced Elder Scrolls 6, which I've only played a bit of Skyrim. Like, I say a bit. A lot of hours, but not enough to warrant saying I played it in any way or can remember the story. I don't think I played any other Elder Scrolls games, but I'd definitely give this a sniff, surely. Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be massive. Starfield, you'd assume, is going to be big. It's a sci-fi game they're setting in their own sort of way they do things, so it just feels like they're reskinning the other 2 types of games. Even your post-apocalyptic, got to do fantasy. They're just adding a sci-fi thing into it. Great, that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what happens. Bethesda basically said, do you like Bethesda? Well, here's some Bethesda. Hey! And I'm a bit surprised that people are moaning because, I don't know, it could be potentially huge. But we'll see. I'd say so far they had the strongest offering. They came out and went, we're a developer. We produce games. We don't produce consoles here. We're not Microsoft and Sony, but here's some of the massive games you're going to want to play. Lastly, I guess I'll finish up on Microsoft. I feel like they're getting a bit of flack, and it's not particularly warranted. Okay, they announced a lot of shooty games, and unless you like Halo and Gears of War, and I'm trying to think what else they announced now, it was just shoot when I was looking through it. And I was just like, I don't like most of these titles. I like Gears of War. I'm quite interested in Gears of War 5, obviously, and I'm interested in Gears of War Tactics and the Pop Vinyl add-on they talked about. They're all interesting. Although, they'll kill it if they do what they did before and just not have a Horde mode in it. deciding to... I only really... I played the story of Gears of War 3, but I mainly played the Horde mode with Kevin Anna. And then when they announced 4 and everything, and Judgment and that, the story... I just couldn't be bothered with the game mode of it. I wanted the Horde mode again, and it wasn't as good. So I feel like they really, really need to make this one right, and they need to make this one work. And if they do that, it'll be great. And so fingers crossed they do. If they don't, I probably won't bother getting it, because I feel like I'm only really able to get the odd game, and I basically spent my game for the century money on Gears 4, and then didn't like it, and felt like, well, that's a pain. I can't even resell it because no one wants it anymore. Yeah, I felt burnt, but the past 2 Gears games have burnt me, because my wife's quite easygoing and she'll let me get games, but I feel like I shouldn't push it too much. I couldn't say to her, now I'm going to go buy a game. She'd be like, but you've got a game you've just got, and stuff like that, and we can't afford for you to just keep churning out 50 quid purchases left, right and centre. So yeah, I feel like I'd be very, very loath to buy Gears 5 unless it seemed like a scene was setting up around it and people were into it. Cyberpunk 2077 is another one where I'm like, I didn't really show very much of this. My biggest complaint, I think, from E3 is that games like this were showcased, but they weren't. It was just videos of like perfectly rendered people just sat there in this cyberpunk world all chatting and having a drink and whatever. All stuff you would never do in a game. All stuff that you'll never see in the game. The game will never look like that for a second unless there's a cutscene. And it all just seems pointless. Now, I haven't mentioned Ubisoft on here because I just found them the same. It was just like, here's a film that shows a vague idea of what we're kind of aiming for with the game we've made that looks nothing like this. And we're not going to show you the game we've made because it looks nothing like this, but we're going to show you all the bells and whistles and the fanciness of the video, because that's what people seem to want, and I don't want that. It winds me up. Ubisoft's games are better than I maybe sound like I give them credit for. I know they're good games. They're reasonable games. I wouldn't call them AAA games. I'd call them like maybe triple B games or something like that. Like Assassin's Creed is a big title that people buy year on year on year. But I feel like gaming shouldn't have that as their AAA. That should be their standard. That should be a B or a C. That's the equivalent of me watching The Flash or Supergirl or, you know, Arrow and those sorts of programs. I didn't mean to pick entirely on the Arrowverse there. But that's the equivalent for me. That's like the standard. You put your telly on a Monday night and you know what you want to watch, and that's job done. That's not the sort of program that I go into work and I say, oh, have you all watched The Flash? It was amazing. You all need to go watch it. That's reserved for... I just polished off Breaking Bad in one sitting. I've just watched The Wire in a sitting. You know, and they should be AAA games. They're AAA TV shows. So those sorts of... The games that make you go, oh, like Detroit. When I mention that to people, they don't know what I'm on about. That'll slowly gain momentum and people will start reading it and playing it, and realising it's good. And they'll come to me and go, have you heard about this? And I'll say, yeah, I played it months ago when it came out. And that's what we should be considering AAA. That's what these companies should be announcing to the world. But... friggin' FIFA and stuff like that being their major AAA. Again, that's just... Ugh. That's like going to a bar where you can drink whatever you want, an open bar, and ordering water or ordering milk or getting a Foster's. Going to an open bar and having a plain lager when you've got an entire bar in front of you and you could literally drink anything. That's what these games are like, and it's a bit disappointing that they spent so much time on them. EA were disappointing because they spent so much time on games that we just knew were coming out. We didn't need to see it. But ultimately, E3 was slightly better than I thought it was going to be, in that there is plenty there that I want to play, so they've done their job in that way. But when you look at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sequels on my list of 9 games I want to play. I think there's 9 games I want to play. And one of them I don't even know if I want to play. It's the Rapture Rejects one. Cyberpunk is new and Starfield is new, so that's literally it. Everything else is a sequel. Starfield and Cyberpunk I may never ever look at because they may turn out to be rubbish. I don't know enough about them because they only showed videos. I'm surprised that there was no mention of the Final Fantasy VII remake, which petrifies me, because by now you think they'd show some gameplay. It makes me worried that they've potentially wrecked it, but hopefully I'm just being pessimistic. If they make Final Fantasy VII in a Final Fantasy 15 style, I could probably live with that. It comes down to the voice acting, but I think I could live with that. But if they've created a new style that's bold and interesting, I feel like they're going to flop it up. I'm a bit nervous. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks very much for watching. I hope this is better than my other E3 video because I'm not just ranting. Let me know what your standout games are. Have I forgotten anything that you know I would like or will play? Have I forgotten anything that's obviously good? I know I didn't mention all of the people. Just assume that. I mean, I went through an entire list to make sure I wrote down the ones that stood out to me personally. If there's anything there where you think I should go and turn my head and have another look at it, or whether there were ones shown elsewhere in the show that weren't necessarily thrown in my face, because I know sometimes they have games just there on the floor to play. Let me know, because yeah, I'm always looking for more. You know, I want to play games. It's just I feel like they're aiming at younger people than me, and I'm getting too old for this stuff and the hype, and I want to be up for the hype. I do want to be hyped. It's hard to hype me sometimes. It's hard and it's easy. If you basically say you're going to dangle 4 new Pokemon in Pokemon Go at me, I get excited and I run out around the street looking for them. But if you tell me you're going to bring out a vague game and here's a picture of what it might look like, but it's not quite actually what the game's going to look like, it's just a fancy picture, then it pushes me down, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Anyway, I'll wrap up, like I said. Thanks for watching. Give me a subscribe, comments, likes, and all of that. This is me coming up to episode 100 of Sheepdog Says. I need some ideas and plans for that, because I don't think I realised when I was doing number 90 that I was only 10 days away. And it only occurred to me earlier, even though I was thinking about it earlier on, it still hadn't really occurred to me that every day that goes by, I'm one day closer, and it's like a couple of days' time away. It'll probably just be a normal video at this rate, but if you've got any ideas for what you'd like to see, that'd be great. I'm way off the 1,000 subscribers that I was aiming for. I'm a little bit disappointed in that. I must try harder, got to improve, basically. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.